Yoshi Racing would have been the world's first 3D platformer, beginning development long before Super Mario 64 became the standard not just for every 3D game to release in the following years, but for every 3D platformer released over 20 years later. In fact, Nintendo named it as one of the biggest inspirations for Super Mario Odyssey on the Nintendo Switch, with them wanting to recapture what made 64 so great. Well, you may be surprised to know that it wasn't the first attempt at a 3D Mario game. Interviews are available to read and watch where Miyamoto talks about trying to create a 3D Mario long before the Nintendo 64 was in development. In some interviews, Miyamoto has mentioned taking inspiration from the 3D gameplay of Star Fox and creating a very pre-alpha build of what would later become Super Mario 64. During this time, Nintendo would also work on other various 3D Mario demos and concepts that would either be cancelled or be the foundation of what would become other games, which we may do a future episode on.
One of these early 3D Mario demos, actually the very first one, wasn't developed by Nintendo. Argonaut Games, the developers of the 3D Star Fox game that inspired Miyamoto, actually worked on their own 3D Mario platformer after a long and successful partnership with Nintendo that involved the creation of the Super FX chips, which were used in games like Star Fox, Doom, and Super Mario World 2. However, currently no gameplay or screenshots are available for Yoshi Racing. But a demo was created and the game was pitched to Nintendo. It was described as a hybrid mix of gameplay mechanics that you would expect from a 3D version of Super Mario World and Super Mario Kart. This pitch was thought to take place during what many believe to be around the same time that development began of Star Fox 2, which went on to also be cancelled by Nintendo, and wouldn't be officially released until 2017, where it was finally completed and launched on the SNES Mini. However, the demo received a very positive response from Nintendo, and even Miyamoto was fascinated by the project. Sadly, at the time, Nintendo had a very strict guideline when it came to their own characters, especially Mario and Zelda. So despite enjoying the demo, they decided not to follow through with the project. Argonaut Games would continue to work on the project, but as a new IP. Yoshi the Green Dinosaur was changed to Croc the Crocodile, and the similarities between the two are easily noticeable. Eventually, the project turned into Croc Legend of the Gobos. It was released in late 1997 on PlayStation, Sega, and PC. Basically everything except Nintendo. It makes me wonder if this was because of Nintendo rejecting the game, or if it was for technical reasons. Although the demo was pitched in the early 90s, it wasn't publicly revealed until an article from Eurogamer, which details Argonaut Games' involvement in the development of the original Star Fox. In the article, the game was only described as a 3D platformer and was left unnamed. Later on, an Argonaut employee would confirm the game was titled Yoshi Racing while in development and described it as a character racing game. At an even later date, the founder of Argonaut Games, Jez-san, gave this statement: "The end came when we pitched to do a 3D platform game, the likes of which had never been done before. We mocked up a prototype using Yoshi. It was essentially the world's first 3D platform game, and was obviously a big risk. Nintendo never let an outside company use their characters before, and weren't about to either. This is the moment the deal fell apart. We later made the game into Croc Legend of the Gobos for the PlayStation, Saturn, and PC, which became our biggest ever game in terms of sales and also in royalties, since we own the IP." In a different statement, Jez would also mention that Miyamoto came to him and personally apologized for not greenlighting the Yoshi game. If the Yoshi game would have finished development, Argonaut Games could have potentially went on to become one of Nintendo's top tier developers and been looked at in the same regard as Rare, who worked on the Donkey Kong Country series, Retro Studios, famous for the Metroid Prime series, and Grezzo, who at this time has worked on 5 or 6 separate Zelda games. The videos on this channel are funded by supporters on Patreon like you. If you're a fan of this channel and would like to join on videos, receive shoutouts, watch videos early, have your questions answered, or have your topic discussed on our podcast, please consider supporting on Patreon for these and many other rewards for just $1. Shoutouts for this video includes Link Use the Triforce, Rusty Caulfield, Lovable Christie, Give Time 15, Shadow to Us, Robbie Morgan, and Lunarium. I want to thank all of you for everything you have done to help support this channel.